What is going on, everybody? It is Thursday. It is noon Eastern time. It is time for another episode of Closers. As you can see, I am James the Greek, and with me, as always, the Hall of Fame worthy David Ardsma. DA, how are you, buddy?
What Hall of Fame are you talking about?
We'll talk about this in a sec. Okay, so all right, I guess we'll just jump into it. You have had a ton of teammates who are in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Well, from my thinking, you make them look so good that they get into the Hall. So shouldn't there be a special category for guys like you who are the perfect teammates that make people Hall of Fame worthy? You should get in just off of that.
Am I the ugly girl in the group of like really cute girls? So I'm the one that makes them all look way better.
You're the fat chick in the group that I go to first, so that way they know that I'm not intimidated by the group.
Yes, someone's got to do it. I am glad it's me. I'm okay with this. I will take it. I'll take that on. I'll take that responsibility on. I'm okay with being the ugly girl.
Yeah, which is completely untrue because every time we go out, every girl looks at you and just shoos me aside. They're like, "Oh, I want the tall one." And I'm 6 feet. I'm 215. I'm not, I'm not bad, but what are you, 6'3"?
6'3".
Yeah, so you're 6'3", you've got those piercing blue eyes. They go straight to you. Me, I'm the leftover crap that Danny DeVito looks in the mirror in Twins.
But you got the hair. You got the hair. I'm always jealous of the hair.
But you know what's funny?
You talk about eyes.
You talk about the hair, though. I was talking to my friend Nick that you know, and he's like, yeah, he might be bald, but the son of a bitch pulls it off nicely. He's a good-looking bald man. So even you got me beat on that.
Oh, it's taken years, though. I think, I don't know if I told you this last show or whatever it was. The boys have been giving us crap. My two boys have given us crap that we've gotten way better looking since we were like when we first got married and first met. I was showing them pictures. We were showing them pictures because of Andrea's birthday. I put a little post out there from like right when we first met to whenever, and they're like, "You guys got way better looking."
It's true.
I'm like, yeah, I'll get it. My mom's pretty hot. Like looking back at the pictures, like mom was pulling it off. Like she pulled it off, and then she's like it's funny. Like she's the exact same weight since we married. When we met to now, she's the exact same weight. I've gotten bigger. I've gotten heavier
in some places.
I've gotten stronger, much stronger.
You have gotten stronger, that's for sure. I've seen your workouts. You're an animal. And your wife does a great job staying young by working out. She's a trainer. She does a good job. I'll say your wife is in incredible shape. Not trying to pick up on your wife, please, under any circumstances, because that was just...
Here's what I always say when people get mad about that stuff. It's like, I want people saying my wife's in great shape. I'm okay. Yeah. Like, that's all. Like, yeah, she's hot. I know.
Yeah, but the difference is I know your wife so well that it's awkward to say to your friend that your wife is hot. Like, I don't... Anyway, all right. Well, we mentioned the Hall of Fame, and we're going to start off with the Hall of Fame today because we did it. We got Billy Wagner into the Hall. Our interview was the catalyst for Billy Wagner going from 72 to what did he get?
82.5.
And we texted Billy to congratulate him. Obviously, he didn't get back to us, and I am not offended by it in any way, shape, or form because that guy is completely underwater right now. But I couldn't be any happier for Billy. And it's crazy. You know, the more I learned about Billy's career and his stats, I watched him play, and I always thought he was a Hall of Famer. But then when you see that he had the lowest ERA, for players with 900 innings pitched, his strikeout to walk ratio, he was ridiculous. And the fact that it took him 10 years really, really pissed me off. David, quick thoughts on Billy Wagner. We've talked about him a ton.
Yeah, I don't know. You go back to our episode, check out how much we've talked to Billy Wagner. The interview was awesome. Billy stayed on. Like, we're like, dude, like, you can go. And he's like, no, I'm good. Like, let's keep talking.
Billy just loves talking baseball. He doesn't care.
Love it. Absolute stud. Revolutionized the game of pitching. He was the guy that made fastball, especially fastball up in the zone, a thing. High elevated, high spin rate, high vertical approach angle. Like, like everything. He was like that first pitcher where you looked back and went, okay, what is he doing? Like, what is that ball? Because it is just different. And he, to me, it reminds me so much. Like there's like people talked about like Nolan Ryan's fastball, but Nolan Ryan's arsenal, the fastball, the curveball, everything. Nolan Ryan just overpowered you. This dude, like you look at this fastball, the upshoot fastball, and you're just like, that revolutionized the game. That revolutionized closing. Mariano is the best closer of all time. Billy Wagner revolutionized the game and made the strikeout like a legit thing for closers to go after every single at bat, every single inning. It was absolutely incredible. And it's crazy to think that there are stats out there. And again, we have to find them a little bit where he was better than Mariano Rivera. And Mariano Rivera, one of the best closer of all time, one of the best pitchers of all time. But when he's sitting there and he's better than Mariano in some ways, that says a lot when the very, very best. It's like sitting there being compared to Barry Bonds. If you're able to beat Barry Bonds in some real legit stats, and again, we got to find them a little bit. It's like, strikeouts per 9, or it's looking at there and saying ERA, over 900 innings and stuff like that. It's pretty insane what he did. It's just like if he was a Met his whole career, he would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer, almost unanimous pick. If he was a Dodger or something like that, there would have been no question. It's just he wasn't, and it just takes time. He had a Hall of Fame career. I just love it that he's in, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, but 10 years, he should have been there a lot sooner. It's amazing. You mentioned that he was better than Mariano in some stats, but Mariano was unanimous, and it took Billy Wagner 10 years. That's just awful. Bad job by the writers. We'll talk about.
Yeah, if he was a closer for the Yankees, you would have been like talking about him. This is the epitome of closers and all that stuff. If you replace Mariano and him, he would have been first ballot, almost unanimous Hall of Fame.
And the first lefty to ever go in as a primary reliever.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because there's been 5 guys who are primary relievers that have gotten into the Hall of Fame, and he's the first lefty. The other lefty that had a chance that never got in was John Franco.
Can you name all 5?
Goose, Billy, obviously Mariano, Hoffman, and who is the 5th? Oh my God, Lee Smith.
God dang, you're good.
Thank you.
But that's why you got the hair.
Yes, because when you think about it, it causes so much smoke that it destroys all the hair.
That would have hurt my brain.
Gotcha. All right, Miss Fat Girl, Miss Ugly Girl. Let's talk about one of your former teammates that you made look so good that he got in on his first ballot, and that would be CC Sabathia, the Yankee. CC, just an incredible pitcher for all those years. What was your thoughts when you found out that CC got in first ballot?
Again, he was the guy that we knew was going to get in the Hall of Fame. Just the momentum, you just know, like, you start listening to people and you realize he's going to be he's going to make a Hall of Fame, right? You just hear the ballots, you hear the people coming out. I always thought it was interesting. Like, this is the first pitcher of a new era of pitching, because he didn't have the glorious 300 wins. Yes, he's got the 3,000 strikeouts, but it wasn't that like overbearing numbers, like the classic numbers that you get in with. And so it opens the door for a lot of other pitchers, and it makes a Felix Hernandez conversation more interesting. I don't want to say Felix is a Hall of Famer by any means, but by this opens the door to have that conversation. And it still blows my mind, and we need to talk about that. So I know we will. Him and Curt Schilling, and you start throwing their numbers together, it gets really interesting for Curt Schilling, because he got banged a lot because people said he didn't have a Hall of Fame career. He had a Hall of Fame postseason, but not a Hall of Fame career. And then you start comparing numbers to CC, and you're like, yeah, Curt blows him out of the water in a lot of these places. But nobody brought that up about CC. CC played the game. He was very likable. He loved the media. Media loved him. And he's gone out after his career and really helped the game. Again, incredible guy. There's not many people, like, if you're like, hey, you give me a short list of players and CC's on that list, you say we got one game to play. Like, on short rest, who you're giving the ball to, and it's been incredible, especially that run he had with the Brewers. Pitched well as a Yankee, but he was really great as a Indian, and that was short time with the Brewers. And so it's remarkable. He had a great career, incredible career, and a very good, like a great guy you want to be around.
He was when he was on the Yankees, he was a little bit like Mariano, not the best pitcher, but so consistently good year after year after
Yes.
year after year that he was just he's
I
your
mean, he had a
ace.
couple great years with the. I mean, he still
Yeah,
21 wins one year, 19 wins one year. But again, then he had some of the injuries, he had some of the knee problems, some of the weight issues, right? Where that whole big lot of conversation about that. But he was just so good, like over the course of his career. Like he was solid.
And the third lefty in history with 3,000 strikeouts. Name the other two, please, who are in the Hall.
Oh, 3,000 strikeouts. All right,
Yeah.
Randy.
Yeah.
That's the easy one. Another lefty with 3,000. It wasn't Sandy.
No.
Sandy Koufax was not.
I'll give you a hint. He plays for a team that I absolutely hate.
Was it Whitey Ford?
No.
Was he a lefty?
No, I don't hate the Yankees.
I thought you hated the Yankees.
No, I don't hate the Yankees. I don't blame the Yankees.
Tom Glavine.
Nope. He was a Met, so I couldn't hate him. That would be from the Philadelphia Phillies, Mr. Steve Carlton.
Okay, Tom Glavine doesn't have 3,000 strikeouts?
Nope.
He had 3,000 ground balls.
He did indeed. All right, and the final guy, the guy that I'm just going to let you talk and have fun, the man who said, pray for hair growth, David, Ichiro Ichiballs.
Ichiballs. There was nothing like going to a Mariners game, sitting in the bullpen and hearing people in right field just scream Ichiro all game, a whole, and a lot of them being Asian, Japanese, and sitting there going, Ichiro, 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 just a whole game. Absolutely incredible ball player, talk about coming over from Japan, having an incredible career in Japan before he even came here, right? And then he comes here, hits the ground running, rookie of the year, MVP his very first year. There was only in his first, God, what is that, 10 years, only 1 year he didn't have MVP votes, and that year he still was an all-star and a gold glover, and he still hit 300. Incredible base hit machine. His job was to hit base hits. He knew that, and he did it with the very best in the game. It wasn't necessarily about getting on base, it was base hits, and he was the very best in the game at that. And I've never seen better back control, better approach to the plate. He was a guy you never wanted to see if you didn't want to get a runner on base, because he'd be on first base within a heartbeat. Amazing arm and out of right field, especially when he first came over. You didn't want to run on him fast. He would actually, sell out a lot more than a lot of players from Asia at first. He would go for the ball, the sliding catch that kind of made it famous. Yeah. Incredible teammate. I loved every single minute with him. So it was locker mates for 3 years with him, and then played with him also with the Yankees. And he was just a great teammate. I loved every little bit of him. And God, Ichiballs. Congratulations.
Holds the record for most hits in a season with 258. And as far as I'm concerned, he surpassed Pete Rose.
262. 262.
Oh, 262. My mistake.
Yes.
And
he was seventh in MVP voting that year, by the way.
He was what?
Seventh. He had 372, led the league, hit 372, 262 hits, had the most intentional walks, had the highest WAR in the American League. WAR wasn't a thing back then, and was seventh in MVP. Vladdy was first, Sheffield, Ramirez, Ortiz, Tejada, Johan Santana, and then Ichiballs.
And if Ichiro was a New York Yankee, he would have been number one probably that year.
Yes, 1,000%. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to take anything away from Vladdy had 39 home runs, 124 runs, 337 average, and dude, come on.
Yeah, for those of you that don't think that there's an East Coast bias when you're looking at MVP and stuff like that, just remember Ichiro came in seventh that year. And I'm kind of ashamed to be a New Yorker sometimes when I think about that just incredible skew towards New York Yankees and New York Mets. It's bad. But Ichiro, just an amazing player, another guy that you made look so good, and he should be calling you and thanking you. Now, he missed out by being unanimous by 1 vote, and I think I figured out why he wasn't unanimous.
Oh, why?
Because there's probably some writer who was pissed off that he never got an interview with Ichiro because Ichiro speaks English. We know that he speaks English, but no, he couldn't let anybody know. So that writer probably got so pissed that he couldn't get an interview that he said, I'll make him wait.
I will say this. I don't think because Ichiro didn't get unanimous, I don't think the system's necessarily broken. But I do say this, and we're going to talk about this. Somebody has to have a conversation with that person and say, what was your reasoning? Why did you believe he wasn't a Hall of Famer? And the reason is, well, because everyone else is going to vote him in. They take their vote away. Because there's not enough accountability to the votes. We're going to talk about this. I know we're going to talk about it. But when I look at this and say, you can make an argument for Billy Wagner. You can make an argument against Billy Wagner. You can make an argument against CC Sabathia. Without a doubt, you can make a very easy argument probably for both. I think they're wrong, but you can make an argument for both. But when it comes to Ichiro and his success here, and then you add in his success in Japan as well, because that's part of it. What didn't he do? Like he argued, he had more hits than Pete Rose if you combine the two. Which we added Negro leagues into this. Like, why can't we add Japanese stats to this if you want to go down that road?
They did it with Josh Gibson. Why shouldn't they do it with Ichiro? It wasn't like the Japanese players weren't allowed to play in the United States, just like the black players weren't allowed to play in MLB. So if you're going to give Josh Gibson his stats from the Negro Leagues, why not give Ichiro his stats from Japan and actually have the real hit king in the Hall of Fame?
It's an interesting conversation. It doesn't mean the system's broken. It just means there's definitely cracks that need to be mended and fixed. Because
let's talk about it. Is the system broken?
And convince me that you had a reason to say he wasn't a Hall of Famer.
Well, let's talk about it. Is the system broken? Ichiro didn't get all of the votes. Now, somebody made an interesting comment, and I can sort of see it, although I don't agree with it. But let me play devil's advocate for a second. If you are a voter and you know that Ichiro is going to get in first ballot, and there is a guy, because you can only vote for 10 guys on your ballot, and there's a guy, let's say a guy that we talked about, Dustin Pedroia, that you think should be on the ballot a little longer just so he gets his props.
Absolutely.
If the guy says, you know what, I'm just going to give that Ichiro vote that I would have given to Dustin Pedroia to keep him on a little longer, is that the worst thing in the world?
No. And that's the accountability. That's the conversation we have to have. And there has to be some groundwork here to have that conversation, because there's 394 votes, right? He got 393. That's too many votes. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. And again, I went on X and put a big
and I want you to bring up
there.
Bring that up. Bring up your Twitter. I want to go through those points one by one, because I didn't get to look at them. I saw them. I saw that you tweeted it, but I didn't really do a deep dive because I figured we'll talk about it on the show today. So what you had, I believe, 7 different points that you wanted to make on the Hall of Fame.
Yes, and I would have kept going if there was I was trying to come up with it as I was doing some other things. I'm like, God, there's probably a million different things I'd say here, and I'd love to have this conversation first and then do it. But the very first thing, there's too many votes. 394 votes is too many. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. Again, I think it dilutes who's voting. It doesn't get enough of the people who truly know the game. I don't think 10 years is enough to prove that you know the game. You're stuck in a region. You're stuck writing for X newspaper, and you're only seeing Y players coming through. I think you need to extend that to 15 years. So you really get to see what a Hall of Fame career is. 10 years isn't enough to see enough Hall of Fame players to understand what a Hall of Fame career is. So that's the first thing. Again, there's too many votes. I think
I like that.
What?
I like that. Now, how do you take it back? How do you minimize it?
You minimize it by scrubbing it all. Start from zero. Okay, let's start from scratch.
Okay.
Every major league city, so like New York, you get 2 major league cities with 2
So every
teams,
major
okay?
league team, let's say.
Every major league team, but it could be a city, right? City or region, right? Because the Rockies are kind of a region. They have a panel of 5 people, 5, 6, whatever you want to do. You create a board. So the Dodgers create a board, the Angels create a board, Rockies, yada yada yada. Those 5, 6 people choose who their 5 votes are. Okay, they choose who 5 people in their region, in their team that represents their area, who understand what it means to vote for the Hall of Fame, what it means to see a Hall of Fame player, what it means to be a Hall of Fame person, et cetera, et cetera. Right? They go by the same standards that the Hall of Fame, the Baseball Writers Association of America has, but they choose who those 5 people are because Vin Scully never had a vote in his life. Joe Buck doesn't get to vote. Buster Bowley, or Buster might have a vote. I don't know.
Buster, I'm pretty sure does.
But a lot of these people are just on TV. They have no votes. But yet those are like Harry Carey when he was around. We're looking at up in Milwaukee. Who was it? Oh my God, Bob Uecker. These are if anybody knows what it's like to be around Hall of Famers, to watch them every single day, to scold them when they're not doing well, to praise them when they're doing great. Like, they know what it means to be a Hall of Famer, and they don't get these votes. They don't have a say in it. But if Milwaukee's group of 5, their board believes that Bob Uecker knows what it means to be a Hall of Famer, then he gets their vote.
Right.
Instead of just saying, hey, the beat writer for the Brewers knows what it means to be a Hall of Famer because he is a beat writer for 10 years. A lot of respect to beat writers. Nothing against beat writers.
No, they work hard.
Again, too many cooks in the kitchen. Let's eliminate that, and then let's give those votes to people who maybe have a better idea of what it means to truly be a Hall of Famer. So you end up with 5 votes for every major league city. So you're looking at 30 cities, right? So you're looking at 150 votes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is that right math?
Yeah,
that math right on the spot. Nice. Okay. Then there's still the Joe Bucks of the world. There's those people that like they've seen baseball their whole life. They're
Bob Costas.
Bob Costas. Oh my God, Bob Costas. Like Bob Costas, who you might not like him in New York. A lot of Mets fans don't like him.
He's Greek.
Bob freaking Costas knows what it means to be a baseball player. Hey, I'm going to say this, like Billy Crystal knows what it means to see a Hall of Famer. Like, I'm not saying it could be anybody. It could be a fan. It doesn't have to be an announcer. It could be somebody who's just, I know, I've seen it. I've been on the field every single day of my life. I know what it is.
How about this? How about the fact that Harold Reynolds, who played with a whole bunch of Hall of Famers, who is one of the guys on MLB Network Radio, MLB Network Television that everybody knows, doesn't have a vote? No. How does Harold not have a vote for the Hall of Fame and a guy who's a beat writer for the Tampa Bay Rays does?
Just because they know they've lived half a baseball life compared to Harold. They've seen a quarter of the players to Harold, but yet they get a vote.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that person doesn't deserve it, but I'm saying there's people that deserve it probably more or understand what it means more.
The Hall of Famers should have a vote.
Well, that's what I'm going to get to. You need some national votes. So what I say is like you give 20 to 40, whatever that number is, whatever you're comfortable with, 30 national votes, and you have another board. Maybe that Hall of Fame actually puts it together, and those are national votes. Okay. Maybe it's a commissioner. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's whoever they deem is worthy of those national votes. Okay. Now, so now you're looking at 170-ish votes, 180 votes. Hall of Famers. There's nobody that knows what it means to be a Hall of Famer more than Hall of Famers. They don't have votes. You're telling me that like Nolan Ryan, who faced like 5% of all major league batters who ever play this game, or 10% or something like that, he struck out like 10% of all major league hitters who ever played this game, doesn't get a Hall of Fame vote. Dude, let alone he's an owner. I mean, it's just what that dude has seen and been through. And what he understands what it means to be a Hall of Famer. He understands what Hall of Fame mentality. Like, he was telling the story of like, who was it that he was saying? I think he was telling a story where he threw a ball up and into a Griffey and tried to knock him down or something like that. And then like he's at third base and you realize like this dude's not moving, or Sheffield or something like that. And like you realize like he had said something like that dude is different. And so Hall of Famers need votes. They need to represent the Hall of Fame. They are what the Hall of Fame is. They also need votes.
Absolutely. You're telling me that a writer who covers the Cincinnati Reds is more qualified to vote for the Hall of Fame than Griffey and Cal Ripken?
That's my thing about it, is like, and again, that doesn't mean the writer for the Cincinnati Reds doesn't know what a Hall of Famer is, doesn't know what that doesn't, that's not, I'm still not, that dude might get a vote too. Like if in Cincinnati, they might say, dude, you're the guy, but you got to earn it now. You have to really earn it, and not earn it by just showing up. To me, that's a varsity letter jacket, or that's a little prize when Little League you're saying, hey, you're on the team, yay. Like, it doesn't, the qualification is just having a job for 10 years is literally the qualification. And so that, to me, it's just not tight enough. I don't think when they originally built the Hall of Fame, this is what they thought it was going to be. I don't think they thought there was going to be 394 votes. I think thought it was going to be a smaller group, smaller baseball writers. They didn't think there was going to be 30 teams. They didn't see it that far advanced, but we're still living in 1940 lifestyle. More on this. I think you definitely need to make it a Hall of Fame weekend again. You need to make it a Hall of Fame, an actual event. Build a real baseball stadium out there. The Doubleday Field is wonderful. The history behind it, cool. But it's not a major league facility. They need to have a major league facility and like at least one major league game. This year, how cool would it be if the Mariners and the Yankees were playing? Like, for a game, because you could easily do it. You make the team run through New York, make the team run through the Mets or the Yankees, and have them come up for the series for one game, go back the next day, whatever it is. You could do even multiple games, but I get the revenue issues there and all that stuff. But you make it the whole event. You do the game during the day, and then you bring out the stuff and you do the ceremony right there. You'd have a lot more people in the stands. A lot more people could see the whole Hall of Fame, everything about it. And then you make it a true event.
I like where you're going with this, but logistically, it's a nightmare because who's going to pay for that stadium? Because the stadium's going to cost you hundreds of millions of dollars. Who's going to pay the freight? You're going to divide it amongst the teams, and then you're never going to get your money back because you're not going to hold enough events over there to justify that cost.
But they did it in Iowa. They did it in Iowa. They're doing it in other cities. You can make stadiums that aren't hundreds of millions of dollars. You can make you can very easily do a very good stadium for a couple, for $10 million, $15 million. And it's a drop in the bucket for Major League Baseball, and it gets more people to the event. You sell the tickets, do that. Like, there are places that they've done this where they built the temporary stadiums, and they're amazing. And like that Iowa game, when the Field of Dreams game, is ridiculous, and the amount of publicity it gets. We just don't make the Hall of Fame ceremony enough of a national thing on that day. A lot of times it sneaks up to you. You go, oh, they had that today? Like, it's not like it should be one game by itself, the night game, or everybody sees it and they know that's what it's there for.
Well, they're estimating 100,000 fans this year for Ichiro's induction.
100,000?
Yeah, they said that they had 80,000 a couple of years ago, and they're saying because of the contingent of Japanese people that are going to come over, it should be about 100,000 people.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. Now, that's cool. Now, okay, so I got a couple other things. So right now we're looking at this. We're looking at the ballot results. Perfect. Thank you for throwing that up there. When you get elected into the Hall of Fame, once you're past the 70, it's 75%, right?
Yeah.
Once you're past 75%, we should never see what the percentage is. We should never know. We don't need to know, because that's the problem, is we're always going to sit here and go, well, Billy got 82%. That makes him less of a Hall of Famer than Ichiro, who got 99.7. And Ichiro, though, got less than Mariano. So he's not, Mariano's the only 100%. No, dude, the moment you're in and the moment you pass the 75% threshold, no blank, you're just a Hall of Famer. Everybody below that, though, you need to see the percentages so you understand their growth, their progression, or their regression in some cases. And so voters can understand that. We can look at that and have that debate. But once you're in, dude, you're a Hall of Famer. That's the problem, though, is we're putting these people on levels. Like, you're a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like, screw that, man. You're a Hall of Famer. I don't care what ballot you are. You're a Hall of Famer. I get it. The first ballot means a little different. Like, you're a surefire, like, no nonsense. Everybody thinks you're a Hall of Famer. But, dude, you're in. And so we're always looking at these comparisons, which ballot you got in or what percentage you are. Like, we're looking at 82.5, 88, 86.8. You're telling me, like, to me, that means nothing. Yeah. They're just a Hall of Famer. So let's keep it there.
No, I'm with you with that. I have no problem there. I think that's a good idea. And quite frankly, it's garbage anyway because Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, they didn't get in 100%. So what does it matter?
Right? And they had way less voters because they probably pissed somebody off. Like,
A couple of people didn't vote for Griffey. That doesn't make any damn sense. So you're
doesn't
right.
make any damn sense. And so that to me, those are the changes I would make. And again, it's not perfect, but something needs to change. And it's why I think it will never change, because the Baseball Writers Association of America never wants to give up their grip on what it means for them to represent what the Hall of Fame is.
Yeah.
I think personally, I think the Hall of Fame could probably take this away and revamp it themselves, but they won't do it either because it's a symbiosis that they don't want to lose within each other. Something needs to change though, because like this wasn't even that controversial of a year. But when we're having people turn in blank ballots and screwing people over because they want to do some political like thing, or they just disagree with the steroid era. Ooh, like good for you. Like you really, while you were voting for them in the MVP races and the Cy Young races, and you're giving them all the awards that you hate, now you're standing up for it, but you didn't write any articles back then. You didn't call Bonds a steroid user back in 1998. You didn't stand out. You wanted your job.
Yeah.
And now you're going to stand up for it when it's okay to bash them. That to me is a problem.
Yeah, that one writer who didn't vote for Ichiro, he's still holding a grudge since World War II. His grandfather was in Pearl Harbor. I mean, just crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right, you mentioned it. I want to go through really quick. You talked about CC versus Curt Schilling, and I honestly believe that if Curt Schilling retired today, he would be in the Hall of Fame, because we kind of went through that weird political time where the left hated the right and the right hated the left. Now it seems like maybe, hopefully, things are calming down a little bit. I hope, I pray. But yeah, you look at the numbers, Curt Schilling's a Hall of Famer every day of the week. And he's already said that he doesn't care if he ever gets in, but I'm sure he does.
No, you still care. I get it, but like, he's been jaded at this point. You end up like hating life, and you hate the voters and all that. And Curt said a lot of things about the Hall of Fame voters, about writers in general, that are negative. And he said a lot of really stupid stuff. But the last time I looked, like, you don't have to be liked to be a Hall of Famer. And that's the problem too. It's like you get these voters with these political motives, or motives because like, oh man, I don't like what he had to say. He had bad things to say about the writers, so we're gonna like vote him out of the Hall of Fame. Like that's their way to be able to stab him and get him, and it worked to some degree. But you're holding out on the one great power that you bestowed upon you, which is to follow certain rules and vote them in the Hall of Fame because you didn't like him or you didn't like some things he said. I mean, there's dudes in there that are way worse human beings. And like you voted CC Sabathia as the first ballot Hall of Famer. Curt Schilling blows him out on almost every single category except for wins, innings pitched, and games. That's it. And that's it. So, but again, on games, like, what if Curt had as many games? He would be killing. Statistically, he would be destroying probably CC on some of these categories if he just had more games. He had 130 less games. 130 less games, but he only had like 30 less wins or 40 less wins.
Crazy.
Like some of these numbers, you're sitting there going like, geez, like ERA is like significantly different. ERA plus strikeouts. He had more strikeouts than him. He had in 130 less games. Like that's 300 less innings, and he had more strikeouts. And you're sitting there going like way less walks, way less walk percentage. And he had a couple championships. He had 3. Like there's things that he did that are incredible. And again, the one thing people want to throw against him, he doesn't have Cy Youngs. Okay, I get it. But his best years, his teammate was some of the greatest years all time of a pitcher, like Randy Johnson. And he would have been Cy Young 2 years in a row if it weren't for Randy Johnson just being insane.
Oh, yeah, and then he had to pitch with Pedro as well.
Yeah.
So, all right, plenty of Hall of Fame talk definitely, if you are a fan of the Hall of Fame, if you like the system, if you hate the system, make sure you go on the comments. Let us know what you think. You can also tweet us at the DA53 on X or Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it. And don't bother tweeting
Instagram,
me. I very
everything,
rarely pay attention
on everything. The
on
DA53.
everything. All right. Let's move on. There's actually been some interesting baseball news. One of your former teams actually got a player for a change. They were no longer the bridesmaids. The Toronto Blue Jays land one of the biggest power bats in the field with Anthony Santander. Gave him, what did they give him? 5 years, $92.5 million. That's a lot of money, and a lot of taxes in Toronto.
A lot of taxes in Toronto, but it's a great move. I am glad he finally signed. It's great for baseball. This dude's an absolute stud, right? He goes out there, 44 home runs. I get a 235 batting average, not like the greatest thing in the world, 102 RBIs. He was for a while there what was keeping this team rolling. Him and Gunnar was basically it. Like at some points they were keeping this team afloat. I think this is going to be a big loss for that team. Their veteran, some veteran leadership, veteran numbers. Guys goes out there and just got the job done day in, day out. But when you're sitting there in your Toronto, you have to love the sign. You've missed out on everybody. And you finally land somebody that sits there and can make a difference. And there's a lot of teams that could have used Santander, but Toronto got him.
Yep. What I love about Santander, switch hitter, his splits are equal pretty much. There's some teams that really could have used that lefty bat, like one of your other former teams, Seattle. I would have loved to see him over there. But great move by Toronto. Why is it that Toronto just can't get players? I mean, they finally got Santander, but they've been whiffing on all these guys. Is it just because of the taxes? Is it because they don't know what the future is with Vlad and Bo Bichette? What do you think it is?
I think it's multiple things. Taxes obviously pay into it, but again, if you pay more, you're fine on the tax side. And it's not like let's think about this. It's not stopping players from going to the Dodgers or
Right.
the Mets and the Yankees, right? And it is more, but it's not that excruciating more. It's not like it's going to kill you. We're not seeing guys sign with Texas and Florida and like crazy. So that can't be too much of a problem there. I think it's the taxes are starting with it. I think it has a lot more to do with it's a last place team and your star Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has zero guarantee to come back after next year.
Yeah.
So if I'm a player and saying, okay, your only really good player isn't guaranteed to come back, like why do I want to sign here when I can sign anywhere? And the problem though is now they're going to start getting the players that nobody else wants, that the players that only one other team wants, or like Santander, his market had to have been shrinking. And then eventually that offer with the Blue Jays looks good. And it's in a division, it's on the coast, and so there's a lot of things like it. I'm going to tell you like this right now. Toronto's an incredible place to play. It's an incredible place for a left-handed batter to hit. It's a great fan base. When you're winning games, there's not many places that are like it. You're playing for an entire country. There's a whole lot of things to like about it. The stadium's awesome now. The changes they've made are amazing. And the organization wants to put money into it. They still need one more bat. If they go out there and get Bregman, they need. If I'm the Toronto Blue Jays, I'm going right back to Bregman saying, dude, we've got a chance here. Like we have a real shot, real legit chance. If you're sitting here at third base and you got Vladimir over there, you got Bo over there, you got Santander, you still have George Springer who has a lot left. Kirk can still hit the ball pretty dang good. We went out and got maybe the best second baseman in all of baseball in Andres Jimenez, like incredible second baseman, dude. Like
brilliant with the glove.
You have a real legit chance to make an impact here. Rotation question marks, and maybe Cosman's getting a little too old. Barrios, you got Francis Bassett and Uriel Rodriguez. Bullpen is an absolute joke right now. Like that might be a problem, but at the same time, like that might be like that 9 in that lineup. If you got Bregman in there right now, I think you're competing. You've got a very short list of teams you're competing with in the American League.
How about this? I'll tell you that I believe that Toronto right now might be better than Baltimore as it sits today. What do you think?
You think they're better?
Baltimore has lost two key players in Corbin Burns and Santander, haven't done anything to replace him. And then you have Toronto getting Santander, getting Jimenez. You win with defense. So you got Jimenez, and now you have Santander. I think they are neck and neck, if not a little better than the Orioles.
Okay, but they did go out there, Sugano. Okay, Sugano from Japan. Don't downplay this dude. This dude has 2 MVPs under his belt as a starting pitcher.
I know, but he's a complete unknown.
2. He's not a complete unknown. No one's talking about that about Sasaki and Yamamoto. Not a complete unknown. This dude has 2 MVPs under his belt. Like, that's no joke, okay? But again, complete unknown to Major League Baseball. But you still got Dean Kramer. You still got Charlie Morton, who they signed in and brought in. He's got to be healthy. Zach Eflin is an absolute stud. Grayson Rodriguez is an absolute stud. You have a rotation, and that rotation is better than the Blue Jays rotation right now. I will take their rotation over Blue Jays. Now you're looking at the bullpen. I am taking their bullpen over the Blue Jays bullpen, only basically because you actually have somebody at the end of the bullpen in Felix Bautista. You don't know what you're getting out of him, but you have one, okay? And then you're looking at the lineup. Is there Vladimir Guerrero Jr. or Gunnar? Who are you taking?
That is really tough. Man,
my problem.
I don't know if I can switch. I don't know if I can pick between the two of them. I think they're so close.
Gunnar did what Vladdy did, basically like his rookie year, right, or like second year, whatever, right? Like they're kind of like right there. Yeah. But then I'm like Adley. I'm like, Toronto doesn't have anybody that can really compare to Adley when Adley's actually playing good, right?
Right.
Then it gets, then you get thin really quick. Jackson Holiday, wonderful, great prospect. Come to the big leagues and do something. Cedric Mullins, great ball player. We need a little bit more out of you. Mountcastle, solid. Cowser, solid. Tyler O'Neill, solid. Ryan O'Hearn, solid. But it gets thin. Kind of.
We don't know what Kjerstad is yet.
Added a lot of boom in that lineup.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. All right. Since we're talking about pitching and lack of pitching for some teams, we're gonna move on to the Dodgers, who just have way too much pitching. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody that if you want to be a pitcher, or you are a pitcher, or you can spell pitcher, you should go to Top Velocity. Top Velocity Pro, run by Mr. David Arzma, will teach you how to be a pitcher. And if he doesn't know how to spell pitcher, I'll spell it and he'll tell you. But go to David Arzma, look at his, go on his Twitter, go on his Instagram, and get in contact with him to be the best pitcher that you can be. David, your thoughts?
My thoughts. Dude, come on out. Top Velocity Pro, topvelocitypro.com. Top Velocity Pro. Message me on Instagram, message me on Twitter, on X, or the DA53. If you want to be the best pitcher you can possibly be, let's go. There's a best thrower you can possibly be. Dude, there's no doubt. It's safe, it's healthy, and it's effective. But dude, you got to work. If you want to work and you want to try something different, do it. Don't do what everybody else is doing. Like, don't do that. Be different. And if you want to be different, Top Velocity Pro.
And when I think different, I think David Arzma. Now, another one of his teams, you got a lot of freaking teams. Another one of his former teams, the LA Dodgers, they just don't care anymore. They're throwing money at everybody. They decided, hey, we're going to get Roki Sasaki. We're going to get Tanner Scott. We're going to get Kirby Yates. And it doesn't matter if we're paying for him for the rest of the 2030s, but we got it covered. I don't really want to talk too much about the breakdown of these players. We know what they are. Yates and Scott, they're really good. Sasaki, unknown in Major League Baseball, but has a track record in Japan for being a great player. The question is this, though. Is this bad for baseball? And do we need a salary cap?
Okay, so that's the real question. Is it bad for baseball? That's borderline yes, borderline no, is my answer to this. If I want to if I'm going to hold myself to something, put my feet to the fire and have to answer it, no. it is not bad for baseball. I actually think it's great for baseball. And what it is to me, the reason why it's great for baseball, it's showing the fans that there's more money in this game for owners that want to spend it properly.
Correct.
Spend it the right way, market their players, make money off of your players. And that's the best thing they ever said was when the Dodgers got Ohtani and the year was over and they said, dude, that contract was a steal. We had no idea how much money we were going to make off of this cow.
Yeah.
Again, helps when the dude goes 50-50. But also helps when a team takes that and makes money off of it. Like, there's so many owners that are scared to spend money because they just see the dollars and cents immediately. They're not seeing how to market the players. They're not seeing how to make money off the players and truly make a lot of money off of these deals, these TV deals, all stuff like that. They're stuck in bad deals. The Dodgers are not. The Dodgers are making money left and right, hand over fist. And that allows them to do this. And they're sitting there saying money's going to be cheaper in the future. We can make money now, and then that'll pay for it later on. I like it. And at the same time, it means nothing that they're going to win anything. They're just going to be the favorites. But if we go out there and Snell gets hurt, Glasnow gets hurt, Sasaki's and then their rotation gets really thin pretty quick, and you still don't know, like Glasnow, like, dude, you don't know if this dude's going to be able to pitch. He's never been able to be consistently healthy. Snell, like, he's not going past 5. Like, consistently. So, like, you still have to have the bullpen, and they're going out there and signing all the guys in the bullpen. But guess what? Kopech's hurt.
Yeah.
Their closer from last year, at the end of last year, is hurt. These issues, they're having these problems, and I'm not going to sit back and just guarantee the team's got it.
Okay, but no, it's no guarantee. And for everybody that's saying, oh, there's going to be a strike because the richest teams are always going to win, I'm going to go back in time. I'm going to start with the year 2015. I'm going to tell you who made it to the World Series and whether or not they were in the top 10 in payroll. So in 2015, the Royals played my Mets. The Royals ended up winning. Neither team was in the top 10 in payroll. 2016, the Cubs played Cleveland. The Cubs were number 5 in payroll. Cleveland wasn't in the top 10. You look at 2017, Astros versus Dodgers. Astros won the World Series, weren't in the top 10. The Dodgers were number 1. Now, 2018, you had Boston versus the Dodgers. Boston ended up winning. They had the highest payroll in baseball, and the Dodgers had number 3. Fine. But then the following year, 2019, Houston Astros versus Washington. Washington won the World Series. Houston was 8th in payroll. Washington was number 7. And then we had the COVID year where the Dodgers won the World Series against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay definitely wasn't in the top 10.
Right on the top 25.
Yeah. Granted, the Dodgers won that year, but a little bit of an asterisk there. Then 2021, Houston versus Atlanta. Atlanta wasn't in the top 10. Houston was number 4. 2022, Houston versus Philadelphia. Houston was number 8. Philadelphia was number 4. 2023, Texas versus Arizona. I don't think Arizona was in the top 10, do you?
I highly doubt it.
And Texas was number 4. And finally, last year, we had the Yankees versus the Dodgers. The Dodgers were number 5 in payroll, and the Yankees were number 2. Yeah. And the Yankees lost to the Dodgers, who were number 5. So having the top payroll in baseball doesn't mean a damn thing. And you want to know why I know that so well? Because I'm a Met fan.
And who was number 1 last year?
That would be the Mets.
And they were borderline never even making the playoffs.
Yep.
And if Lindor didn't just start going crazy and OMG didn't go off and everything that happened with that team didn't happen with it, if oh my God, who's the McDonald's character?
Grimace.
If Grimace doesn't come to the game,
or Hakutua,
that world, like, the Mets don't go anywhere. If they lose like one more game, 2 more games. If they lose 2 more games, like a couple little blowout things, they don't even make the playoffs, and everyone's looking at that Mets team. They're blowing that Mets team up. There's is very close to that. Again, like Ohtani, like, was hurt in the playoffs. Like, if he doesn't, like, they were close to not making it, right? They were close to not being able to pull this whole thing off.
They were close to losing to San Diego.
Yes. Guys, like, super close. And there's things about this, like, we sit here and talk crap about this all day long and say there's gonna be a strike or a lockout. No, there's not. No, there's not. Because one, the players love this. Players aren't complaining at all about this. And the owners need to figure it out amongst owners and deferral money. So if there's a lockout, it's not because there's going to be a salary cap. It's because they got to figure out deferral money. Yeah. And it won't be a strike. It'll be a lockout, and that's only because the owners need to figure out their side of it.
Yeah,
nothing to do with the players.
The owners are going to lock out the players potentially because they can't control themselves.
Yes, and that's one thing I learned about being on the union. I had a high level job in the union when I had a volunteer position in the union. I wasn't getting paid for it. One of the things they told us straight up, the reason the Major League Baseball Players Association exists, the Baseball Players Union exists, is to control the owners, is to help them figure out what they want. And their job is, because you get different sects of owners that want different things. So their job is to help those sects come together and to figure out where they can find a bond in the middle, because the players will work with them. The players will work, but their players' job is to get them to figure out what they want, and we all kind of find a happy medium. That's their job. And the reason why Rob Manfred is the commissioner, because that's what he did. He was able to smooth those edges on the owners and get them all to agree. He was the head negotiator. He was the one that worked with the union. So he found out that's how he worked. And that's why we're not going to have a strike. If we had anything, it's going to be a lockout, but it's only because they got to figure out deferral money and how to control some of this. They're going to say we want to, we're not going to have a cap. It's just that they got to figure that out. But again, if the Dodgers don't make the World Series, it's a loss of a season. That's Absolutely. The beauty. And they're going to spend all this money, and then you're going to have like the Diamondbacks or some team out of nowhere come and be right there in it. And don't forget about the Braves. They're still a great team. The Phillies are a great team. The Mets are a really good team. Like, you have these other teams that are really, really legit. The Brewers are going nowhere. Like, they're going to be still pretty good. And the Padres, the Diamondbacks, they're right in it. Like,
and you sit there and you talk about, if you spend the most money, you're going to be a great team. You're going to be a good team. There's no doubt about that. Look at the Philadelphia Phillies. They haven't won a World Series in a little while, and they're a very, very good team, but it hasn't gotten them anything. You have to make the right moves with your money. If Juan Soto goes out, gains 50 pounds, he can't get away from the buffet, and he hits, 20 home runs and hits 270 and has an on-base percentage of 315, did the Mets really do a great job signing him? No. So you have to make sure that you get the right players with your money. Now, the Dodgers did. They got Shohei Ohtani for $700 million. That was the right move because they've made money off of it. But you don't know with any of these other guys.
Yeah, and if Betts or Freeman get hurt, or Freeman at some point is not going to be as good as he always has been, but if those guys really are hurt and out, not just like kind of out for a couple of weeks, whatever, but if he's out, that lineup changes really quick. It becomes really thin really quick. And if you get a couple injuries in that rotation on your dudes, it gets thin really quick. And you know what? The one thing the Dodgers have had is a lot of arm problems. And they continue to have a lot of arm problems up and down their development and at the big league level. So if any of that happens, this team's out of it pretty quick.
Yeah, what happens if Yamamoto has a capsule problem? That $350 million is out the door. It's down the drain.
Down the drain, and everybody looks at him and goes, that was a horrible sign.
Exactly.
Like, and then like, what if Snell can't go past 5? If Glasnow has another injury, Dustin May doesn't come back the same way. So Gonsolin doesn't come back. Sasaki, he's taking a year to get going because he's still young. And like, then all of a sudden, like you got like one starter that you can rely on. And like, that's a problem. That's a major problem.
David, are you enjoying our talk today?
I always enjoy my talk with you.
I'm enjoying it too. And I think the listeners and the viewers are enjoying it. So let's take a second. Let's let them hit that like button. Let's let them hit that subscribe button because it helps us out. It gives more good conversations that you guys get the pleasure of seeing and listening to. And it costs you nothing. You get to see David Ardsman's beautiful blue eyes and my amazing hair for nothing. And all I ask is click that little like button. Come on, you can do it. Go for it. All right, they got enough time. All right, finally, our last segment this week. We've been doing it for a few weeks now. Our Mount Rushmore. I had a brain fart there for a second. This week, it's the Baltimore Orioles as chosen by our very own David Ardsma. DA, who do you have number one in your Mount Rushmore this week?
Number one, this is dude, Hall of Famer, third baseman for the Baltimore Orioles, Brooks Robinson.
Brooks Robinson, this guy was incredible. You want to talk about just having a great glove. This was the guy. Even to this day, and I never got to see Brooks Robinson play live. I have seen plenty of tape, and we're looking at some of that tape right now on the screen. This guy just made everything look so easy. Playing at the hot corner, there's a reason they call it the hot corner. David, when you were growing up, what did you know about Brooks Robinson?
Honestly, not a whole lot, other than he was a great third baseman that like people talk about him being the best third baseman, ever, best defensive third baseman ever. And then they talk about maybe offensively being best third baseman, but they, like borderline with some other guys. I just heard the stories about how great he was. Like, I didn't get to watch him. He was definitely before my time. But when you start looking at what I like to look at is like MVP and stuff like that. So that's comparing that player to everybody else in the game at that time. He won one MVP in 1964, but almost every single season of his career, he had MVP votes. That means that they're looking at him saying, offensively, defensively, everything, he just stood out constantly compared to his the players of his generation. And that's how you know. I mean, look at this, like MVP 3, MVP 19, 9, 1, 3, 2, 17, 23, 7, 4, 26, 12, Gold Gloves up and down, All-Stars up and down his entire career. Absolute stud. And again, you talk about 18 All-Stars, like one of the best third basemen of all time, if not the best.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to move on to a starting pitcher that revolutionized the game. Jim Palmer, one of the broadcasters for the Orioles currently, who doesn't have a Hall of Fame vote. Go figure.
Right? Doesn't have a Hall of Fame vote. Broadcaster, a Hall of Fame pitcher. You had just incredible 268 wins over his career, 152 losses. I didn't know he was a Scottsdale, Arizona native. That's awesome. Good for that. Makes a lot of sense now. 6-time All-Star, Cy Young's 3 times, 2 ERA titles. Just absolutely amazing. Leads the Orioles in almost every pitching stat ever. There you see Jim Palmer right there. You can see Jim Palmer on my wall behind me. Just an absolute incredible workhorse. That's the thing too. Is there's so many innings. He was always taking the ball. He was a good strikeout pitcher, not just over dominant strikeout pitcher, but he just he's one of those guys like he had 23 win season, 22 win season, 20 win, 21 win, 21 win, 22 win, 21, 20 win. It just never ended with how good he was when he was there, when he was healthy. I hear stories about him, like you want him to have that ball in the most important games of your season. And that was the type of pitcher he was. And definitely, without a doubt, the best pitcher in the Baltimore Orioles history.
And I tell you what, if we get 100 likes by, let's say, February 23rd, a month from today, I will give this to somebody who likes and is a subscriber and comments. I will give them this Jim Palmer autographed baseball card from my personal collection.
I mean, he was Cy Young number 2, Cy Young number 2, Cy Young number 3, Cy Young number 5, Cy Young number 5, Cy Young 1, Cy Young 1, Cy Young 1. Like, dude, the dude could have had 5 Cy Youngs. That would have been amazing.
Yep. Guy was freaking amazing. All right. Next guy on the list, the star of Beverly Hills Cop, the star of Coming to America, the switch hitting first baseman, Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy, arguably the best switch hitting hitter of all time.
All right.
Him or the Mick, right?
Well, let's stop. It's Eddie Murray, obviously. It's not the star Beverly Hills Cop. Just having a little fun because when I was a kid, I was always mixing them up. I was always
mixing up, but I didn't. Yeah, the Eddie Murphy, Eddie Murray. Easily names are right there, but and same generation, right? Same kind of time frame. Eddie Murray, absolutely amazing switch hitter, 3,000 hits. One of 2 switch hitters that had 3,000 hits. Pete Rose is the only other one. 3,255 hits, 504 home runs, 1,900 RBIs. The numbers just go on and on and on. He was a little bit of a compiler, a little bit, but not really, because towards the end of his career, it wasn't like he's just getting those hits, but he probably stuck around a little too long, probably a couple years too long. But again, it doesn't take away his legacy. What?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just saying, you can see on the screen right now, you had a couple of years with the Mets, which, compiler years right there.
Yeah. Couple compiler years where it wasn't the same player, but he was around. But again, he was still productive. That's the thing about it. I don't want to call him compiler years, because the dude still hit 285, 265, like 323 is 39. He was 39 and hit 323. There might have been some help with that. Who knows? Because usually at 39, you're not going out there and having one of the best seasons of your career. But it is what it is. But again, no MVPs under his belt. But he had an MVP 2, MVP 2, MVP 4, MVP 5, MVP 5, like 6, 11, 8, like MVP 5. Like, he was right there always with a lot of the best players. And the thing was, too, like, wherever he went, the teams were good. Teams were really good, and he was on that one of the greatest baseball teams ever to not win a World Series with the Cleveland Indians.
Give me a comp for Eddie Murray in today's game, because I just thought of one, and you're gonna be like, "Wow, you're right."
He's not a switch hitter, but with the Guardians, with Jose Ramirez.
Yes, 100%. Just always in the top.
That's who you're thinking. That's awesome.
Yeah, top tier of hitters, and never got an MVP, never got the national love, but damn good hitter.
Yeah, just didn't ever get that number one love, but you're always sitting there going like, dude, that dude's always really good.
Yeah. I want that guy on my team if I can get him.
Always want on a team, and they're always good with him.
You're starting to think like me, David, which is awesome or scary.
Scary, and I don't know if there's this next player. I don't know if there is a comp.
No, there is no comp for the next player. He's incomparable, Mr. Cal Ripken Jr.
Iron Man. I mean, what are you going to say? Just what are you going to say? Obviously, the most famous thing he's ever known for is his consecutive game streak, 2,632. I remember watching it. I'm sure you remember watching it. You're crying when he's sitting there, like after the game, after it becomes an official game, crying watching that, and just knowing what he did, how amazing it was. There might have been some help along the way to make sure that streak continued, some rain outs, some light outs, some things happened, but that's how those streaks happen. And that, again, those streaks don't happen just all by yourself. Those streaks happen with a lot of help. What's funny is that there were years where he only had 161 games or 160 games or whatever it is. Like, you didn't have 162 games. And again, you had the strike shortened seasons in 94, 95, but he played every single day. But again, the dude wasn't just like a good ball player. He was great at times. He had 2 MVPs, Rookie of the Year, a lot of MVP votes in there, a lot of really good seasons. Of course, there came a point where he was playing and he was good, but wasn't great. He moved to third base, which was, I think, one of the best things the Orioles ever did. And that the fact that veteran sat back and said, yes, that's something now I have to do, move to third base, transitioned wonderful, and still had great. I remember the All-Star game in Seattle where A-Rod went out there and kicked him out of third base, made him play shortstop, and then he goes out and hits a home run. Like, you're kidding me? There's some storybook players. Like, Jeter's a storybook player. Everything he did was storybook. Cal was that for the Orioles. Like, everything he did was basically storybook. And like, I'll never forget that moment in the All-Star game where he hit the home run, or when A-Rod scooted him over to shortstop. That was so cool.
I don't care what anybody says. Sasaki grooved that pitch and told him it was going right down the middle when he hit that home run in the All-Star game.
Maybe. I wouldn't doubt stuff like that happens. I would say, I don't know if he told him or whatever, but there's no doubt if I'm facing Cal Ripken, knowing the moment, I'm trying to groove 3 down the middle, which means I would have walked him on 4. Maybe even hit him. God, could you imagine if you would hit him? Oh my God, I would have walked up and hugged him. And by the way, I met Cal once. The dude is huge, way bigger than me. Like I walked out and I went, dude, like I had you're a shortstop. What are you doing? The dude's like 6'4", 220 when I saw him. I'm like, dude, this bro. And I was like at the peak of my career. And I'm like, whoa, like you're a big boy.
Well, that's why he was the prototype for the modern shortstop. He was the reason why guys like A-Rod were able to play, being that big, that tall, that strong. Nobody told them, well, no, you're a little too big to play shortstop. If Cal did it, why couldn't he?
Right.
I actually had the pleasure of producing Cal's show on Sirius XM. They used to have a show with Cal and Billy Ripken, which still my favorite line from anybody when I said, all right, Bill, talk to you soon. He's like, all right, stay in touch with yourself.
Hey, can I say this?
Yeah.
There's one thing I was looking this up. I was diving into this morning when when I was doing research on Cal and all the players. 1984, Cal Ripken is 27th in MVP voting. Okay, Silver Slugger, so he's the best shortstop, hitting shortstop in the game. All-star. Surprised he didn't have a Gold Glove, but who knows? Like Omar was probably doing something crazy. The dude's 27th in MVP voting. Okay. 27th. He led the league in WAR. He led the league with a 10 WAR. A 10, not an 8, a 10. He led the league in a 10 WAR. The dude had 27 home runs, 86 RBIs, fine. Hit 304, 880 OPS, 103 runs, 195 hits. Like he had, of course, he played every single game too. Willie Hernandez of the Detroit Tigers won the Cy Young because as a closer with 32 saves, with a 2 ERA, 1.92. Ken Herbeck had 27 home runs, like the same amount of home runs. Cal had a higher WAR. Cal had more hits. Cal had less RBIs, 311 batting average to 304. Like the dude, like it was half WAR. It was half of the WAR that Cal had. Like you start going down this, Dan Quisenberry was number 3 with 44 saves and a 2.6 ERA. Like we wouldn't even be looking at that now. The dude wouldn't even gotten a vote if he had those numbers today. Eddie Murray was 4. Eddie Murray had a great year. A lot of walks, 160 games played, a lot of hits, all this stuff. Like Cal was 27th and had legit MVP stats. Like number 1 stats.
That's what I want to know. Who was 26th? Who was better than Cal?
Doyle Alexander. 17 wins, 6 losses, 3.3 ERA, legit. Mike Boddicker with Baltimore had 20 wins. 20 and 11 with a 2.79. Led the league in ERA, led the league in wins, and was 25th. Like there's some numbers on here. I'm just sitting here going like, how the hell? How did Kirk Gibson get more votes? Same amount of home runs, lower batting average, less hits. Like OPS was less. Like, but they were higher. I don't, dude. That voting for that year, like if WAR existed, Cal Ripken has an MVP.
Yep. All right, so that's the top 4 on our Mount Rushmore. Who was your first guy out?
George Sisler, absolute stud, incredible player from back in the day, in the 20s, 15s and 20s. Incredible ball player. MVP, couple batting titles, 344 career hitter. I think everybody back then hit 344. You look like he led the league in a bunch of stuff, a bunch of years. Absolutely amazing player.
And I'm assuming that Frank Robinson is going to be on your Nationals list.
He might be.
Okay.
We'll see. Finally, there's some good players.
Finally, the current player that could make the Mount Rushmore of the Orioles that is currently playing would be Mr. Gunnar Henderson.
Rookie of the year, first year, MVP number 4 this year, Gunnar Henderson. Again, this dude's an absolute stud. Flow is unbelievable. I am jealous. Young, everything going for him right now has gotten better. That's a beautiful part. His rookie year, then his sophomore year got even better. 9.1 WAR this year. Again, I know that's not the end all be all, but Cal had it with 10 WAR and was 27th. He had a 9.1. He was 4th. Same position, by the way. Cal had arguably better numbers in some places. Anyways, Amazing player. Again, if he keeps going, this is a historic franchise, though. He has to continue this for 10 years, and then he'll maybe make the list. Maybe still.
And
In 10
if it
more
is,
years, he still maybe make the list.
and if you're a baseball card collector, go out and get some Gunner cards. I think
Go
you're going
get
to
some
be
Gunner.
okay. Yeah. Every time I see Gunner, I only think about JD. Your son, my future client with that flowing blonde hair. I can see it happening, and I can't wait to get 20% from your son.
Ever since he chopped it, though, he's going tight, man.
I know.
Going
I
tight.
don't know.
He's going like Mr. and Mrs. Smith style. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Like, I love it.
No, it's not.
Good looking kid.
It's not going to happen. When I'm going to talk to my client when I see him next, and we're going to grow out that hair again.
It'll be a mullet. The next thing will be a mullet.
Oh God. With a Jerry curl.
Yes.
We're talking full on Pedro Jerry curl mullet.
Party
98.
Business in the front, party on top, party in the back.
All right. Well, that'll do with our episode of Closers this week. David, you got anything to say?
Not at all. I love it. This was a great episode. I had a lot of fun. Hall of Fame's always a fun conversation.
Yep. And I cannot wait for our festivities that we're going to do with Ichiro. We still haven't decided if we're going to go to the Hall or if we're going to go to Seattle for his jersey ceremony. I'm thinking now maybe the jersey ceremony would be more fun.
I think we'll get more, it'll be more intimate. We'll be able to do things and that we wouldn't be able to do up in the Hall.
Yeah. And, we know the owner.
All our friends will be there anyways. Junior will be there, all my Seattle people. You never know. Like, I'll get out there and then maybe get to say hi to him on the field.
But let me ask you a question right now. I'm going to put you on the spot. If we go to Seattle for the jersey ceremony, will you get Ichiro to sign my rookie card?
1,000%.
Yes, either that or my I love those cherry blossom cards.
Oh, yes. I will say this. We'll be in a position for him to sign it. I don't know what Ichiro does. I don't know how his signing thing is. I got one thing signed by him my entire career. Or I don't know. No, I got three. Three things. I got 2 jerseys and my personal jersey. So I don't know how his personal signing stuff is. But you will be in a position with your card in front of him. I can promise you that.
And still, my favorite line of all time. We're pull back the curtain a little bit. We were having a conference call, me, you, and Junior one day, and I told Junior, how do we get a roundtable discussion on the Mariners with you, Ards, and Ichiro? And his line was the best. He said, "Okay, here's the deal. If we can catch him 15 minutes before he's about to board a flight to Japan, and he knows he's never coming back to the United States, and I'm on the phone, maybe we can get him to speak English."
He's
the greatest con of all time. Ichiro, I love you for that. Guys, if you enjoyed the show, make sure you comment, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. And I've got a new little show that I'm going to be doing myself. A baseball card show should be coming out soon, the next couple of weeks. Going to have a little bit of fun with that. So if you're interested in baseball cards, check it out. It could be fun. And don't forget to watch our good friend Clippopotamus Jones on Ask Clippy Jones right here on the Man Cave Sports Network. We will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.